There's an Arab saying that says, me and my brother against my cousin. Me and my cousin against my neighbor. Me and my neighbor against the stranger.
Everything that's happening is demanding. It's being orchestrated from above to demand from Israel that we finally rise up as the real lions and not just a little mission where we're lions for a moment and then we go back to being a mouse. It's not a transformation, it's a revolution. The International Union of Muslim Scholars, which is based in Doha, backed by Qatar, issued a fatwa calling for global jihad against Israel. Okay, now what does that essentially mean? Global jihad against Jews, right? Against synagogues, against Jews everywhere, against Israel.
Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should always be connected to the land and people of Israel. You know, we were having a debate right before the cameras turned on because you know this podcast every week goes for at least an hour, and we talk about a variety of topics, but the debate is always, what is that headline topic? Like, why did you click on this video? And obviously, there is...
It should be Qatar.
Well,
obviously.
Well, yeah, but everybody's wondering what's happening in Washington, D.C.
No, you're right about that.
But right before we started, like, the question is, are the two connected? And I think they definitely are. So I'll just mention quickly that there's kind of a media, what do you call it? Like almost like a gag on what's going on in D.C. But the speculation is that maybe the ceasefire negotiations have fallen apart because there was a second secret meeting between Trump and Bibi, Netanyahu. And then Steve Witkoff, who is supposed to be the negotiator for the Middle East negotiations, right, left that meeting and immediately canceled his flight to Qatar. And supposedly Netanyahu has left Washington, D.C., like kind of in secret. So, but then, Ari, you were looking some stuff up and found out there's something else going on with Qatar. So kind of my big question here is, why is Qatar continually seeming to be the good guy? Because that definitely does not seem to be the case when you get down to behind the scenes of what's going on.
We were talking before the show started, which is unusual for us, about what we're actually going to be talking about here, because we come in with a blank slate and just let it download, and sometimes we merit that. But about what should we talk about, the White House and Bibi and Trump, or should we talk about Qatar? The truth is they're very much interconnected. They're not two different stories. Qatar has been coming to the table and playing this silly game. It's like such a charade. It's such a front.
Well, it's more than a charade. They're actually the negotiators for the hostages of Israel. They're the ones that are playing the mediator between Israel and the Hamas.
Meanwhile, they funded Hamas.
Right.
They hosted and provided a bastion of safety for Hamas. And right now, they're working on importing Hamas into Syria, for Syria to be a front for Hamas, because Qatar is moving forward. They're talking on the one hand to Trump about mediation and about being, meanwhile, under the table, they're going in, they're trying to bring Hamas into Syria. They're launching this whole campaign because Israel went in to Syria. Jews are not imperialist by nature. We don't want to occupy Syria. We just don't want al-Julani and these ISIS jihadists to be with weapons on charging the borders of Israel. So we went in to defend and protect against that. And now Qatar is doing this massive ideological public relations campaign, positioning Israel as occupying Syria and taking over Syria and making Syria under Israeli sovereignty and control. And so that's, of course, they're trying to foment within Syria itself a popular resistance saying, no, we're going to hold on to Syria and fight against Israel. And there's a whole public relation. I mean, Qatar is pretty much, they run Al Jazeera. They're funders of Al Jazeera. They understand that this is a multifaceted war. So they provide weapons to Hamas and the war of ideas through other channels. And
that's what we're meanwhile saying that on the face, hey, look, we love Israel. We're Israel's friend. So that's a really different.
We have a Trump's friend too. Let's not forget the $400 million airplane.
Well, I heard a hero and warrior of Israel one time say, you have to look at their hands. You can't just look at their face. When you look at their face, how they talk, that's the wrong move in the Arab world. Jeremy, you had something more on this.
Well, I was going to say they're playing so many different fronts, and I was listening to a man named Steve Witkoff, who's a real Middle Eastern expert, speaks fluent Arabic, lived amongst the Arabs in Israel and outside of Israel for years, and he said that there's an Arab saying that says, me and my brother against my cousin, me and my cousin against my neighbor, me and my neighbor against the stranger. He's like, that's the way that the tribal Arab world works. And he says, not only can we understand that they have sort of tribal loyalty, but also that in its very nature, there's always going to be conflict. Buying a plane for Trump, funding the Hamas, negotiating on behalf of Israel with the Hamas. They're just agents of chaos that are playing every side against each other while they're sort of in the middle, manipulating each side. And we're just falling for it because we're literally giving the fate of our hostages, the fate of Israel's ceasefire in the hands of an obvious enemy.
But what was the ultimate sin that really led to this? I mean, if we're going to zoom in on the present situation, letting the Ayatollah survive, not absolutely decimating the entire regime and leadership in Iran, because what did we essentially allow them to do? To go to the nation when the nation has nothing. If we had eviscerated their banks and their infrastructure and the people were left with nothing, then they have nothing to lose. But an authoritarian regime always keeps its people with just enough that they don't want to lose that thing. And so we kept them with just enough that now the Ayatollah is able to rally them against the flag and be like, yes, I may be bad, but those Jews, they're trying to undermine Iran, your Iran, and so we're paying the ultimate price. We can't any longer go and say it's Qatar and it's Trump and it's this. We have to look within and say, we're not taking responsibility. We're not stepping up to the plate. We're putting our hopes and our faith in other countries and other nations that they're going to do the right thing, and it's not about them. It's about us.
We keep on achieving some sort of tactical victory. We're doing it in Gaza. We did it in Iran. And people are saying that Iran is 12 months away now from another nuclear bomb. So out of all of that, the Mossad and the drones and the air defense systems, and all of that was for 12 months delay. The tactical victories are not working. Then after this tactical victory where they're already regrouping, already now we're already in negotiations with a ceasefire with Hamas. Like, what about actual victory, not tactical victory?
Just this week, we had 5 of our precious soldiers killed in a armored personnel carrier in Gaza. And the next morning, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is nominating Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't see what peace he's talking about. And I also don't think that that's really, it's like he's willing to throw himself on the floor and grovel for the sake of Israel, where he really should say, we did the heavy lifting here. Okay, thank you for the B-2 bombing. That was good, but you did that for you. You did that for you because it's in America's best interest. We need to do what's in Israel's best interest. And the moment you think that what we're doing is not in your own best interest, back off, and we're gonna see this thing through. Everything that's happening is demanding. It's being orchestrated from above to demand from Israel that we finally rise up as the real lions and not just a little mission where we're lions for a moment and then we go back to being a mouse. We need to be lions, and that transformation needs to stick and to last. It's not a transformation. It's a revolution. We're returning to who we are.
I think that on that note, when you're talking about Israel and being pressured to do things that are not in Israel's best interest, well, that's what just happened again. We had Witkoff in these meetings of what we know. The very secretive meetings going on in D.C. We don't have a lot of information, but what we do know is that they didn't accept the far right, if you would, of that there needs to be a Jewish presence. And I wouldn't even say that's far right anymore.
Just outline the 4 parts to the ceasefire deal that Witkoff was trying to impose real quick is that, and then Israel supposedly agreed to the first 3. And one is that Hamas demands there be a permanent ceasefire at the end of 60 days, meaning demand an end to the war. They want massive amounts of aid sent back into Gaza, which they're already getting a lot of aid. And they want and then the terms of the Israeli hostages for Palestinian terrorist swap to happen, all that. Israel agreed to all that. But the one thing Israel would not agree to, and the speculation is this is why it all fell apart and Witkoff stormed out and canceled his trip to Doha, is that Hamas is demanding the IDF leave Gaza permanently at the beginning of the ceasefire, saying,
I can't help but to think, you just saw what Israel did, that we took Iran on head first, went in, destroyed their nuclear facilities, or so it seems. But however you want to say the success was, we took on the mothership, the head of the snake, right? And now we're back. It's like we didn't make the paradigm shifts in our mind. It's hard for people. We're myopic by nature. We get stuck in the moment, and we don't go through the paradigm shifts with the momentum that we need to. And so we're going back to squabbling with Hamas. We need a ceasefire, and we'll talk about why are we even talking to them?
Right.
We have graduated from having any discussions with Hamas.
We're not just having discussions with them. They're making demands. And that is the definition of not winning. That
Exactly.
they're making demands of Israel, and Israel's like, well, okay, well, we will agree to these demands, but not those demands. Where is the white flag? And the ceasefire in its very essence is a loss. It's like a pause.
That's
a
right.
pause is just
Exactly.
a chance to reload. A deal is just a delay. As like, we've been here so many times. Every time we hold back, they just come back stronger. They reload. They re-ammunition themselves. And we just had the opportunity. Agag was on his knees, and we could have chopped off Agag's head. And instead, we settled for like a punch in the face and like spitting on him while he's on the ground.
What happened to
Exactly.
complete victory? I mean, that's what everybody was saying. That's what we were all saying, right before this 12-day war that's obviously wasn't finished. If they got a nuclear bomb still in 12 months, that's no 12-day war. That's going to be coming back up, and it's going to be coming up really soon. When Bezalel Smotrich says, hey, guys, we're going to keep a presence in Gaza because the Gaza situation just called massive. I mean, they caused Israel massive destruction. So much so that it's the largest casualties and mass event of Israel's history since the Holocaust. That's unbelievable and unacceptable. And Bezalel Smotrich says, the minister in the Israeli Knesset says, we're going to have Israeli presence. And the American team with Witkoff says, nah, we're going to disagree about that. What in the world? You're telling me that Israel doesn't need to hold presence in Gaza? Who in the world? What planet do you live on? And is that your decision to tell Israel that they don't need to rule this little bitty section of land that caused the most horrific massacre of Jews since the Holocaust? You need to back out again so that this will happen again, so that Qatar can fund again the uprising and the building of the new front that will attack in a matter of time.
Guys, I'm going to show you two staff and audience favorites that we have for sale at the IsraelGuys.store. These are the Biblical Heartland tumbler, laser engraved with the map of the state of Israel, the Star of David in the middle, and Biblical Heartland, defying the mainstream media and everyone around the world who wants to call this place the West Bank. You can now have your favorite drink, whether hot or cold, keep it that temperature for hours and hours. It works great. It's a staff favorite. It's on every person's desk here in the office. And you can spit in the face of all the Israel haters who want to call this place the occupied West Bank. Or this is a newer product, and we actually shipped this to hundreds of our donors in January of this year. It's the Biblical Highway Route 60, established 2000 BC tumbler. This one is actually one of my new favorites. I just got one. I have it on my desk right now. I was using it during the podcast today with ice water. Keeps drinks cold for hours, keeps drinks hot for hours. I love the white, and I love the beautiful colors, and obviously the kind of homage to Route 66 in the logo there. Biblical Highway, Route 60, that runs north to south in Israel and right through the biblical heartland of Israel. That's Route 60, but it's actually the Biblical Highway because it's where Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David, Joshua, Jesus, even in the New Testament, they all traveled this highway to go north, to go south, to travel to Jerusalem, wherever they were. So, guys, we'll put links for both of these in the description below. Go check it out. Get one, or if you're feeling bold, get both of these tumblers and keep your hot drink hot for hours and hours on end, up to 10 hours, I think. Keep your cold drink cold for hours. Works great in the office. Works great. Fits in your cup holder in your car. And spit in the face of those Israel haters who want you to think that this region is occupied. It's the West Bank. It's the territories. Nope. It's the biblical heartland of Israel. This is the Biblical Highway. Go pick up your tumbler today, one or maybe even both. We'll put the links down in the description below. Now, back to the rest of today's podcast.
I would quote Yishai Fleischer when he says, look at Israel without Gaza. It's like missing a tooth. Like it is so clearly contiguously part of Israel. It goes all the way back to biblical times. This is part of the promised land. You said, what about total and complete victory? I think maybe the aversion or the fear that the Israeli leadership have to complete and total victory it's not our enemies that we're ultimately afraid of. It's the victory. What then?
Yeah.
What do we do then? If we're actually victorious against Iran, what is our mission? Who are we? What are we doing now? And I think if we have, there needs to be this balance. There's fear and desire. And when you're feeling a lot of fear, you need to up the desire, up the vision. So we don't have the desire and the vision clearly defined about who we are and what our mission is in the world. And if we did, then we would be able to have total victory because we know where we're going from there. Otherwise, it's just like a vacuum. Do we go back and say what's going to be? And I think that the simple answer to that, as crazy as it may make me sound, I think that ship has sailed, is the temple.
Yeah.
We are, but not just the building. If you just say we want to build a temple, the building, that doesn't really do anything for anyone. It's to actually be a light unto the nations, a source of sanctifying God's name to the world, a house of prayer for all people. That's what the temple is. And so we need to really get into this mind frame. And I think that the next round of leadership in Israel, I'm not sure it's going to come through the normative Knesset path. It may not. But I do believe that we are on that periphery, what's it called? Trajectory, right.
Path.
Between Saul and David. We say this again and again, but it's true. And when you see what's happening in Israel, I can feel a time that the whole nation is like, please give us the leader that actually reflects and represents us. You know, Bibi did it for a few minutes there when he was going against Iran. That was us. But now we're back to the same
stuff. The problem is that in Gaza, no one's defined what a victory is. Even the proposal that we want to have military presence in Gaza in order to keep the peace, that's not victory.
No.
Real victory is saying, this is now the land of Israel. This now is a part of the state of Israel. We are now going to rebuild Gaza as a Jewish part of Israel. You've lost that land now because you attacked us and we've won the war. That's actually defined victory. And until Israel defines what victory is, it's like a cat and mouse that we keep on playing. We keep on losing soldiers and we're just going back and forth. Ceasefire, no ceasefire. There's no victory because we haven't defined what it means to win.
You know, even in my own head, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? Even in my own head, I'm thinking about what would be said to that. And they would say like, oh, you only allowed October 7th to happen in order to provide a pretext to go in and to conquer Gaza. That's what I've heard from so many of the alternate right, the Candace Owens and whatever, that we needed. But in 2005, we literally ripped Jews out of their homes, ethnically cleansed Gaza of Jews. The only ethnic cleansing that's happened in this area for a long, long, long time was Israel ethnically cleansing Jews.
Right.
And then I'm like, well, that's the response. I'm like, we have to stop.
Yeah.
Stop with this response. Stop thinking what people are going to say and how we'd respond to it. Just do it.
Yeah.
And let them cry and scream and hit the ground and gnash their teeth. And we just move forward with the conviction and the clarity that we are acting with faith and with truth and with kindness and with strength. We need to have the proper balance here. It's very easy for Israel to send delegations to Iran when they have an earthquake and to do kind and compassion and to teach drip irrigation to Africa. But to actually stand up to the nations that want to destroy us with strength, that takes us out of our comfort zone. And that's what's being demanded of us right now, to leave our comfort zone and to actually be leaders.
What I'm really thinking right now is this is so much, because we're talking a lot of common sense. Like, it just really is common sense. Like Jeremy, you said, when you go and you win a war, you win. And then that's what everyone does. But for some reason, that's not acceptable here in Israel, for them to actually just win, defeat brutes and brutal, people that want to destroy your country. Is it okay just to win, full outright win? I think there's something else playing in the background, and we're kind of going back and forth here. What's going on in Gaza? How's it connected to what's happening in Qatar? And the Qatar piece, I think, is a really big deal that people aren't recognizing. Qatar represents so incredible amount of so much money that is in the world of decision making. It's dollar bills. That's what people are being fed, and they're making decisions based on dollars.
And I think power too, and fame, like for
connected
Trump,
to dollars. I mean, look at Trump. There's a lot of dollars connected to the decisions, and this is not a common sense decision. It's based on Qatarian dollars going into Trump. What we talked about it a few shows ago. What was it? How many $1 billion was it? It was ridiculous. Almost $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Like insane amount of money. Like,
can we just
never heard of before.
Can we just remind the audience of who Qatar is to bring this full circle? Because not only did they host Hamas, Qatar was the safe haven for all of the Hamas leaders who didn't actually want to die as martyrs and instead live in their multi-$100 million penthouses. The top 5 Hamas leaders were all multi-billionaires, I think. But they lived in Qatar and for a long time. They were the host country. You could almost say they have an incredible amount of power over Hamas, because let's not forget either, they pretty much snapped their fingers and Edan Alexander was released, right? Literally, it seemed like they said the word and an Israeli hostage was released from Gaza, just to please Trump when Trump went there. What else?
Surely the greatest funder of Hamas.
Well, let's talk about Al Jazeera. Israel literally banned Al Jazeera from the state because there's such a anti-Israel jihadist media network that is owned and funded 100% by Qatar. It's a government state media agency.
We're losing momentum on the Abraham Accords. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, even Egypt did a blockade against Qatar in 2017 until 2021. Why? Because they said that they were undermining and fomenting the jihadi attacks against them in their own countries in the entire region. Like Qatar and Iran are really hand in hand. Qatar and Hamas are hand in hand. And if we're going to go into the Abraham Accords from a place of strength, then we need to show these other Arab countries that we are strong. We know who the enemy is. We know who the friends are. If you want to be our friend, this is what you get. You're just forget this Palestinian state and doing that whole game that is just so emasculating, and you lose the whole purpose of peace when you make it contingent on the suicide of your country or the amputation of your heart. And that's not the point. When we come in and we say we understand Qatar and Iran, we see who the enemy is, we're going to go against them no matter what. They'll respect it.
I think we went over something too fast earlier, and we need to make sure and address this big time, because Qatar has the face. Israel's your friend, Abraham Accords. Israel's amazing. But Ari, could you outline a little bit more about what's coming out that Qatar is doing in Syria? Because that, to me, is, and we need to pull up some of these graphics that are coming out. We need to pull up some of these things on the show right now that are Syria is a Qatarian underground attack from Qatar directly. Hamas is not their only project to delegitimize and destroy Israel. They're funding and fueling underneath. That's a smart way to do it, guys. That's a smart way to do it, because you can't publicly just, like Iran, that's not working so well for them to be like, we're going to kill all the Jews and throw them into the sea, and here we go, we're going to send some rockets. Well, B-2 bombers show up and things like that. Qatar, on the other hand, is playing this very diplomatically, and that is their game. That's what they always do. That's what they're good at. And so I want to recognize that. And Ari, I know that you had done some research into this new front, and it's not really a new front. This is a new thing with what's going on in Syria.
Again, I'll just say there's two fronts to this war, even three. One front is the war of ideas, the ideological war, the PR campaign that they're doing to really push this narrative that Israel is going in, seeking to conquer, annex sovereignty in Syria, which is just so absurd. But that's in order to foment the popular resistance against Israel. So there's that PR idea. There's actually the war with weapons, where they're bringing in Hamas physically, monetarily, geographically, bringing them from Gaza into Syria to attack Israel from that side. And also the International Union of Muslim Scholars, which is based in Doha, backed by Qatar, issued a fatwa just a couple months ago calling for global jihad against Israel. Okay, now what does that essentially mean? Global jihad against Jews, right? Against synagogues, against Jews everywhere, against Israel. This is just a couple months ago. And so they're doing it also from the religious thing, because that is also playing into what Jeremy started the show with. My brother, my cousin, and so they're saying, listen, we're brothers in the jihad. We're brothers in Islam. And now stand with us. And Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, these countries, they need to know that they have a really, really strong, resolute, clear-thinking partner in Israel if they're going to be able to stand up to this pressure.
I would say it's even more than that. I think that with the saying that we don't know how to define victory, we don't know how to define who the enemy is. Who's the enemy here? Is Qatar the enemy? Is the Hamas the enemy? We have to topple the Hamas? Like, is that really the issue? Is it the Ayatollah? Who is the enemy here? And the enemy is not the Hamas. The enemy is an idea. The enemy is a theology. The enemy is a spiritual power in the world. It's a theology that says that the Jews do not have God with them. They've been rejected. They should not be in this land. This should be Muslim land. And the only answer to that is to fight them on a theological fatwa level. That's what they're issuing. They're issuing a religious call to attack Israel. So if we're already bringing God into the picture, then let's bring God into the picture. Who did God promise this land to? The only solution to actually fighting the enemy, which is an ideology, which is a theology, is for Israel to actually recapture and reclaim its land. That is the proof that God is with the Jews. Tactical victories, I mean, I remember the Ayatollah in Iran said, well, if you're knocked down, don't worry, God will be with you there to get up. And we believe in that. So it's like they're able to answer all the issues of any tactical victory because, all right, there's bumps in the road. As long as Israel doesn't reclaim its land and say, we are here to stay forever, then the jihad will never end.
I really appreciate you saying that because, you know, as we say all the time, there's 1,000 hacking away at the branches for one attacking the root. Again, like we have to keep our mind on that clarity that you just said, that this is a spiritual force, which is why when you really dig to the core of the root of the issue, now you understand how Tucker Carlson is coming and having like some sort of affection and defense of Zoran Mamdani. What are we talking about here? Like that he's saying, clearly, he had that one line, clearly I disagree with his policies. But other than that one line of describing Zoran Mamdani, he was saying he's America first and he's this and he's that. But when you dig under that to the coding under that, it's the same replacement theology in Islam and in Tucker Carlson's Catholicism or whatever branch of Christianity, Pentecostal, I don't know what it is. But he is a replacement theologist, and both of them believe fundamentally that God has abandoned and rejected the Jewish people who are in the land of Israel today, which is why the greatest refutation to that, undermining of that, is the return of Jews around the world to the land of Israel. And all of the prophecies of the Bible continuing to manifest through the Jews in Israel today. That is the testimony, however much Tucker wants to say to Ted Cruz, yeah, but are the Jews in Israel really Israel from the Bible? No, they're not. Then why is God performing these massive, unbelievable, nature-defying miracles that are unparalleled in human history through us?
Well, I'll tell you, that's exactly where Netanyahu failed at the DC conference that was publicized. He was asked, what about the two-state solution? And his answer had nothing to do with anything that you said. Just listen to this.
Do you think that there can be a two-state solution that creates an independent?
I don't know. I'd ask Bibi that question. You have the greatest man in the world to answer that age-old question, two-state. Go ahead. You give him your honest answer.
I think Palestinians should have all the powers to govern themselves, but none of the powers to threaten us. And that means that certain powers, like overall security, will always remain in our hands. Now, that is a fact. And no one in Israel will agree to anything else because we don't commit suicide. We want life, we cherish life for ourselves, for our neighbors. And I think we can work out a peace between us and the entire Middle East with President Trump's leadership. And by working together, I think we can establish a very, very broad peace that will include all our neighbors.
You see, all eyes are on Netanyahu and Trump at DC. And Netanyahu is asked, what about a two-state solution? And instead of him saying, there will never be a two-state solution, this is the land that God gave the Jewish people, this is our ancestral homeland, this is our God-given land, there is no such thing. He could have just put an end to it. And instead, he's sort of like, well, they can have these kind of powers, but not those powers. And we'll talk about the Palestinian people. And listen, the reason why is because we don't want to commit suicide. And it's like, really? That's the reason why? You had the chance to actually bring the truth to jihad, to Tucker Carlson, to the whole world. And instead you're talking about us not wanting to commit suicide. It's like the old school of 80 years ago Zionism that's like not relevant anymore. It's time for a new voice. And do you know who actually brought a new voice to the table? It's just so interesting to juxtapose these two. Actually, it's America's ambassador to Israel. And when you see these two next to each other, how the prime minister of the state of Israel talks and how the ambassador of America talks, it's like, can he be our prime minister, please?
You want to play this?
Yeah, totally.
It's 3,500 years that the Jewish people have been in this land. And it goes back to Abraham, who I say wrote the title deed and said, this is yours. Now, here's where I can't escape the biblical part. You either believe the scripture or you don't. And if you do, then you have to accept that when God gave the land, he gave it to a people and he gave it for a purpose and he gave it as a place. And it was not nebulous and it was not ambiguous. It was very specific. So this little sliver of real estate that now is the most contested piece of property on earth has a history that goes back to a covenant that God made with the Jewish people.
I I don't even know what to say. That's the ambassador of the United States putting that answer to Netanyahu's answer. It's a little bit embarrassing for me.
What I wish is that the Israeli media would take that clip, translate it to Hebrew, blast it out constantly for the entire nation to hear. Why? Because Psalm 126, when it says, Az yomru vagoyim, higdil Hashem la'asot imela, higdil Hashem la'asot imanu. And then the righteous of the nations will say, look at the great things God is doing with you, as Pastor Huckabee is saying. And then the Jews will say, look at the great things God is doing with us. In some ways, it needs to be a Mike Huckabee that comes in and shares that message. Because right now, what are they hearing from our leadership? Just like we heard from Bibi Netanyahu. We don't want to die. That's why. What do we want? What is our mission? Two-state, what could he have said? Your two-state solution? We want the two-state solution to return to the place where Israel has a state of ritual purity and ritual impurity, because that's what happens when the temple is rebuilt. We could purify ourselves as a nation and start to shine a light of prophecy and godliness to the world. Imagine that. Imagine that. The world just say, purity, impurity, the temple. That's right. We're starting a new conversation. We're starting a new conversation. And this conversation is going to lead to light and peace and love that will bring the whole world together. It's worth it for us to go out on that limb.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was been thinking about this, and my wife shared a dream with me she had last night, this morning. And it's a little weird. It's strange for me to do this because I'm not this type of person necessarily, but it felt very significant for the times that we're living in. And you're talking about who is the real enemy here? Like, it's not Hamas, it's not Iran, right? It's an ideology. And this dream was really interesting. Again, I won't go into all the details, but she said basically Hamas came back for a second October 7th and invaded the Jewish community, took everybody prisoner, left them there, and then they came back and they basically said, we're letting you go because we're scared that the world will not tolerate a second October 7th. But then they said, but our only stipulation is that you don't go to the Temple Mount and sing and pray and dance on the Temple Mount. Otherwise, we'll come back and kill you. They said, our warning to you is that we'll leave you alone if you disregard the Temple Mount, if you stop going to the Temple Mount and prayer. Because like last week, we talked about that the Israel security minister is now allowing prayer and singing on the Temple Mount again. And I thought it was very interesting that in Hamas's own words, the whole entire reason for October 7th was because they call it the Al-Aqsa flood, was to stop Jewish worship on the holiest site on earth for the Jewish people, and should be for Christianity as well. But basically, the only way they are willing to stop the war, according to my wife's dream, is if the Jewish people stop ascending the Temple Mount. And you're talking about, what does victory look like? What does success look like? Build the temple. I don't know. Like, it just feels so strange, but also just so fitting at the same time. Like, and the world has no clue. The world has no clue the connection between the Temple Mount, has zero clue that Hamas is and the enemies of Israel. It's all zeroed in on that one place.
I just find it fascinating, and I think that the dream is great, but it's emphasizing a real truth that we see the Muslim world very spiritual, very connected to their faith, and really walking in a really kind of a real fulfillment of what they actually believe. And they're telling everybody, this is what we believe, and we're achieving our goals. With what Ambassador Huckabee just said, that's like emotional. That's like, whoa, we've got somebody that's really believing and has faith in God and faith in the Bible and is willing to be very upfront about it. And then Israel. Where's Israel at in this thing? The public in Israel, thank God, are actually on the awakened and spiritually awakened, and understand that this is a spiritual thing, and understand what you said, Luke, that the Temple Mount is important, and honor to God is the winning of this war. And when we honor God, we will win. And these kind of horrible things that we're seeing, these attacks, these spiritual attacks, because it's their religion against the people of Israel, but it's not yet being represented in that video, Jeremy. It was so clearly that. What
did Prime Minister Netanyahu say? The thing that I think hurt me the most wasn't even about the two-state solution. He said, of course, under President Trump's leadership. Why does he have to turn over. It's like with the dog, where the dog turns over on its back. It's like, and just like shows its underbelly. I'm giving up, President Trump. What about under God's leadership? Under the leadership of the nation of Israel, which is a sword in the hands of the God of Israel, and saying, we are going to come in and we are going to shine this light to all of humanity. That's really like what we're waiting for. Taking leadership.
Let's not
taking
forget
extreme
either
ownership.
that in January, Trump told Bibi, finish him. Like Bibi had Trump's full backing. Or in other words, like Trump was looking for Bibi to lead. Like when he was first elected, he said, go, like take them out, finish this war. But then when Israel didn't take the lead, and then like you're saying, they kind of laid down, they're looking for approval from the world. Now Trump's in charge.
I just want to say from a Jewish perspective, when we for thousands of years have been in the exile under the oppression and at the mercy of the nations of the world, then we couldn't build the temple. We didn't have the ability to. But now that we're back in the land, Jerusalem is in our hands. The Temple Mount is in our hands. Every day that goes by that we're not doing it, it's a sin. It is an affront to God that we're not doing it. There's no reason. The only thing that is preventing us from building the temple and doing this is right here in our own heads. Because I have it also. When I say this, when I said, what do we need to do, build the temple? I hear my cousins and friends and people I know being like, oh, Ari's a wacko. He's crazy talking about the temple. That, though? Because we've been so conditioned and we've been so disconnected.
What will they think?
Why I think that?
No. What are your family, the people that push back to you on this? Is it
it's
literally
just
because
theological fundamentalism, and you're talking about the temple from thousands of years ago? Yes, I may on the high holidays go to the synagogue, and every single prayer is all about returning to Jerusalem and building the temple. But that's just liturgy that we mouth the words. It's not real. Real is, well, according to the geopolitical issue, the Qatar, the politics, the games, the things that's clearly not working. Nothing that's been happening, all of these political solutions have been just digging us deeper and swimming in blood. Everybody's blood. And now we're coming with actually a brand new, fresh, but really not that new. It is the most ancient, the purpose of the world. We're coming and we're saying, this is what it is. Let's entertain it. And we're too afraid to even entertain that, because what does that actually mean? What will people say? But we just on an individual level, each person needs to be able to say, I'm going to speak my truth. And if everybody thinks I'm nuts, my friends and my family and whatever, if it's the truth that is in my heart, I'm going to say it. And if it means I'm on my own against the whole world, well, then there you are with Abraham.
Well, I don't think that you're on your own, but I think that it's right now a few steps ahead of time. Meaning Bezalel Smotrich, Israel's Minister of Finance, is saying, let's keep a military presence in Gaza. And Witkoff is saying no. And Netanyahu is like, well, Trump is saying no. So the answer is no. And it's like in every war, if someone loses, they lose land. Meaning if Russia and the Ukraine were to cut some sort of deal and Russia were to take a big swath of the Ukraine, no one would think twice about it. The fact that Israel can't even leave a military presence in the land that we were attacked from, it's like insane. It's clearly that the battle here is a spiritual battle over who gets to inherit the land. And if we can't take care of Gaza and the land of Israel, to jump already to a temple in Jerusalem seems like we've missed a few steps. First, we need to actually take possession of the land. And if we can't do that...
Let me just give a little pushback here for Jeremy, okay? The analogy that comes to my mind is a man wandering through the forest in the middle of the night, looking for the tower on the hill, and it's pitch dark, and it's raining, and it's windy, and then lightning comes, and he sees where he's going, and then it's gone again, and then if we want to be able to get anywhere, we need to have a vision of the tower on the top of the hill. We need to be able to see the ultimate destination. Otherwise, we're just treading water and we're making arguments and we're saying, but every other nation gets to win and every other nation gets to have a war, and enough. Let's actually say why we're there. We're there so there's Jewish sovereignty in the entire land of Israel, so the Jewish people from around the world can come home, so we can build the temple and shine a light of godliness and a sanctification to the world, bring peace to mankind. We're finally, I always have this I've had this vision a long time ago of when redemption actually happens. We're going to be in this massive theater, and from one side of the stage will come Hamas, from another side Hezbollah, and Iran will be there, and they'll bow down, and we'll all be giving them a round of applause for the role that they played, the critical central role that they played in bringing us as a nation to be who we needed to become to bring about this redemption that's good for all of mankind, them included. that they're playing a role. We need to play our role. The longer we kick the can down the road and say it's not time yet to talk about the temple, it's never going to happen.
So the question is, which comes first? Like sovereignty over the entire land and then the temple, or the temple, which will bring sovereignty over the entire land?
Okay, I think first of all, when we talk about a war, it's like saying, should we have the tanks or the artillery or the infantry? There's numerous things all at once, but I think it's critical for the commander to go out before going into war. We've had this before a long time ago. We're about to go into Gaza, and the head battalion commander goes and says, "Shmor al atzmechem, tachzor b'shalom." Right? Take care of yourself, take care of each other, come back in peace. That's nice, but is that what the head of Hezbollah is saying in Hamas?
No.
They're like, we're going to liberate the land and go and fight. Yeah. Right? When you go to war, you have to want to be there. You have to want to have a mission. If we don't have a mission, it's just like, well, we get to win the war, and so we just don't want to die. That's what Prime Minister Netanyahu just said. We just don't want to commit suicide. We don't want to die. That's not good enough.
Well, I wonder what winning. If we talk about this, Jeremy, and I think you just brought it to another, like a higher level. But winning, there's like two things of winning. One is to take back these territories that have been taken from the land of Israel, and that's just one step along the way. But that's not really winning in the Hamas ideology, in the Qatar ideology, in even the Jordanian or the Egyptian or the Iranian. What is really winning? What is their main thing that they do not want to see Jews doing?
Settling the land.
Build a temple. They know it. That's why they called it the Al-Aqsa flood. That's why they called it the Al-Aqsa flood. It was all for them. For Hamas, right. It was all about the Temple
Mount. Those two things go hand in hand, because building the temple is also being sovereign in the land. So maybe it's not one or the other. Maybe it's not these two.
Without having the temple as a vision, then sovereignty is not compelling enough to pay the price for what that sovereignty. Imagine going to Saudi Arabia and saying, "We want you. You're really one of the bigger players here in the Abraham Accords. We want you to lead. You will have the right to offer the first sacrifice to the God of Israel in the temple. We want you to offer a sacrifice in it. This isn't the Jewish temple. This is all of our temple. Are you in? Are you in?" Like, just imagine that. I don't know what they would say to that, but it's a new discussion.
I have a question. I know the Arabs, in every Arab home, they have the Al-Aqsa Mosque in their homes. That's a picture they have in their homes. Well, that's just
every home in Gaza.
Every home.
Yeah.
What do the Jewish homes look like overall? Do they have pictures of the temple? Is that something that's there?
If we're talking about Judea? Or Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Okay, it's two very different things. I mean, one of the most ancient Jewish practices that every Jew has in their home is the minute you go into your house, you take a knife to the wall and you just scrape away an entire portion of the wall, because why should our home be completed when the home of God lies in ruins? Okay, so there's that portion of the house that lies in ruins to remember. But if you go into homes in Judea, you go into my home, in the living room, there's a big picture of the temple with a beautiful shofar right over it, ready to go. It's like the temple kit right there. Does that make me an extremist? Yeah, but if you go into a Hamas home or Gaza home, everyone would be like, oh, so that is their ancient indigenous culture and we have to respect the religious sensitivities. But if a Jew does it, it's like, oh, that's dangerous all of a sudden.
I don't think there's a show like this anywhere on the planet where we go to the roots, because this is the root. Nobody else is talking about that root situation.
Well, let's not forget either, and a lot of people don't realize this, but like everybody wants to take the West Bank, right, and turn it into a Palestinian state, the two-state solution. Most people have no clue, because every Christian tour to Israel includes a visit to the Western Wall, right? Most people have no clue that Jerusalem has been in every set of negotiations that has ever happened for a Palestinian state. The two-state solution, the negotiations, one of the demands from the enemy, from the Arabs, right, is that Jerusalem, meaning East Jerusalem, meaning the Temple Mount, the Western Wall, is included in whatever state they want. It's always included in the negotiation. Now, you could say Israel will never give that up. They would never give up Jerusalem. It's always the top demand for the enemy. That goes right hand in hand. The rebuilding of the Temple Mount, East Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria. It's all about sovereignty in the land of Israel, with the focal point being the Temple Mount.
It's as if our enemy is programmed to not compromise. Because if they would compromise, we would compromise. And because they're not compromising, it's forcing us to really want it. It's forcing us to love Jerusalem. It's forcing us to really love the land. And they're not going to stop, even if we don't want to commit suicide. It doesn't matter. They're not going to stop until we achieve actual victory and reclaim the land.
One of the parts I remember in this whole war that I remember looking at Hamas and being like, you got to respect that, was when Biden had this crazy, ridiculous idea of building this pier off the port of Gaza in order to bring in humanitarian aid directly to the Gazans, and Hamas was bombing it. But it was for them. It was for them to get their own, and they were bombing it because that's just who they are and what they do. And I was like, there's something about the absolute irrational refutation of anything that it's just like, because this morning, 4:45 a.m., 5 a.m., sirens went off. Did you get that?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I guess it was just over us in Judea. The initial siren went off. Boom, it's called the preemptive siren, which is a nice little heads up. It gives you maybe 10 minutes. They see the missiles coming in, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is, heads up. And then you're ready to wake the kids up. Should you wake them up now? Should you not wake them up now? We ended up not having to wake them up because the missile was detonated overhead, but that was it for me and my wife as far as sleeping was concerned. Right. And that's, as it's happening again. They're doing it again, and they're doing it again. Yesterday, Avraham Azulai, could we put his picture up?
Yeah.
I want you to see his face.
Well, and this is someone that lived in Yitzhar, like a mile from here.
Lived a mile from here. He got married a few months ago. He built his home with his own bare hands, the entire thing. This is like a Judean pioneer, the salt of the earth. And by the way, he was in reserves, meaning that really in reserves, it's volunteering.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be there in reserves, you can get your way out by this point if you want. He wanted, even though he just got married, he was just building a home. What is the law that the Torah tells us, that Maimonides says, that when you go to war, if you got married in the last year and you're feeling fear, you can say, I just got married, I just planted a vineyard, I want out. He didn't say that. His desire to protect and defend the Jewish people was beyond that, and he was killed by a sniper in Gaza just yesterday. We owe it to him. We owe it to all of these unbelievable heroes that have sacrificed their limbs, their lives. Yeah. We owe it to all of them not to compromise. We owe it to all of them to take this all the way home, to bring this to the final destination, and not to start. We're betraying what they've sacrificed for if we do.
Yeah. There's something else we need to talk about, and curious to hear y'all's thoughts on this. And that is the news that there are sheiks now, Arab sheiks in Israel, who want to ditch the Palestinian Authority. They want to live in peace with the Jewish state, at least as far as what's being reported right now. And they actually want to join the Abraham Accords. There's not a ton of information. We're actually trying to see if could we get in touch with one of these guys. But you guys were talking earlier about how tribal and clannish the Arabs are all over the Middle East. You have the same thing happening right now because one of these sheiks actually is the tribal leader of 40,000 people or something like that. So you're talking about tens of thousands of people. So my question is there a place when we talk about the definition of victory, the definition of success, or joining the Abraham Accords, Saudi Arabia versus Qatar, is there a place for Arabs who live in Judea and Samaria to actually join the Abraham Accords as well? And do you think this is realistic? What do you think?
I think that if we define the enemy as the jihad, the theological, ideological movement against the Jews and against the infidel and against anyone that's not them, then Arabs can stay here. They're not the enemy. And the fact it's a little bit more biblical when we say that, Israel went to war against the kingdom of Jericho. What was the kingdom of Jericho? Jericho is just a city. It was just a giant tribe. And so actually having an Abraham Accords with the tribal leaders and giving each tribe its own space in the world and not trying to put all of the Arabs in the land of Israel under the flag of the Palestinian Authority or the Palestinian people. I mean, right next to our farm, there are 2 Arab villages, and most of the nights they're spending shooting at each other. There's no cohesion. There's no Palestinian nationhood. They're tribes that are at war with each other. And as soon as they're done with it, they'll just have war against the Jews. So once a huge tribe or a city says, hey, listen, we want to live as a ger toshav. We want to live as friends to the Jewish people. We want to live under Israel's sovereignty. Excellent.
I'm cynical.
I just want to, you're cynical, but I'm not cynical about this.
Really?
I think that it took a lot of courage for them to say that. And the minute they say that, if Israel finally, what's the theme of this whole show? Israel taking extreme ownership and leadership. The minute they came out, the Jabari clan in Hebron, which is a real significant clan, they came out and said that they've already rescinded it. They rescinded it.
Did
Why?
they really?
Yeah, they have.
One of the sheikh's cars was burned
They're
down.
getting car bombed. They're being threatened. Their families, their kids are being threatened by the Palestinian Authority. Of course, they're going to rescind it. The minute they said that, we should have said, you are now under the protection of the state of Israel. Anyone messes with you, they're messing with us. Not like, oh, we're going to leave this to the internal Palestinian Authority. They stood against the jihad. They're standing with the Abraham Accords. The opposite of the jihad is the Abraham Accords. So they took the Abraham Accords. They're with us now. We're going to take extreme ownership of you. You want to ally with us, not only from a place of strategy, but also deep belief and faith and ideology. We're with you. We have your backs.
I'm cynical in the fact that, and I can understand what you're saying. I'm cynical of the fact that I haven't yet seen in the Arab communities in Judea and Samaria a true, what you would call Ger Toshav kind of mindsets. I see
A Ger Toshav
tribal
is like
leaders,
the
a biblical
stranger
version
who lives within the gates, right, in the Torah.
somebody that has attached himself to Israel. I don't see these people attaching themselves to Israel. I see strong clans that are very much so Islamic still, and that just sense, this is my feeling, I could be wrong, they just sense that it's not the time yet. If you're Islamic, it's a time till you get to the point where you will eventually, they have a messianic vision. They will eventually achieve their goals. But they believe survival means we're not strong enough now.
They came out,
Let's
Josh
get that.
Waller, and they said
push back.
0% tolerance for attacks. They said, we want to be the provider of Arab labor to some of these Jewish villages and settlements and cities, and we will have zero tolerance for Arab terrorism against you. Not one. Okay, so if they're willing to come out and say no, then there's a saying in Jewish thought, Ma shelo lishma, ba lishma. That which is not necessarily for the highest motivations and greatest of intentions can become that. Okay, so we need to, even if it's not the greatest motivations, that's okay. They're coming forward and they're saying, we're with you, Israel. Take them in. Let them feel the warmth, see the light, feel the godliness, feel what it is to stand on the side of God and not against God. And then they can come too.
For the sake of it,
I really agree with Josh. A little bit cynical about these guys. I don't really trust them, but I do like the fact that we've changed the paradigm from Oslo, changed the paradigm for the Palestinian Authority. It's a different way of achieving some sort of peace here. It's like, oh, wait, there's an alternative to the Palestinian Authority? Oh, there's tribes in this land. Oh, there's different peoples. There's different cities. Maybe it's like a paradigm shift of how we can actually see all of Israel. And we've just lost the opportunity because they've already rescinded and Israel sort of like just didn't really respond properly.
Well,
but I nonetheless,
I have
I
another
just don't see
concern.
the room for, do you hear your cynicism for a second?
No, gotta be more-
You're saying you're cynical. We have an entire clan that has said, we don't want to have anything to do with the Palestinian Authority and their pay for slay that will pay terrorists for murdering babies. We want to have nothing to do with that. We're joining the Abraham Accords. And you're just saying, I don't know, do you mean it?
Well,
Come on.
So I'll keep being cynical because I think this is great. Let's take it a step farther. I hear what you're saying. Take it a step farther. You have a clan now that's in the biblical boundary of the state of Israel. Is this a moment where Joshua is in the land of Israel and who's the tribes that come up and sneak up and do the sneaky deal
The Gibeonites.
under the Gibeonites? Are we at that kind of, we're in biblical times. Is it what Israel needs to do? Does Israel need to give up its God-given land? Is it even Israel's right to give its God-given land to people who are not coming under the Jewish, not respecting?
They're not even asking for that. They're asking for autonomy.
And
we're not sealing a covenant and making a mound of rocks. And
not yet. Maybe the biblical times will come. Here's my concern. Qatar's, the sneaky Qatar has to be behind some of this stuff. This, in the world's eyes, says, oh, Arabs aren't so bad. Look at there. These villages, there's hope. There could be, and here's my skepticism. This opens the way for a new kind of two-state. A new kind of two-state where, and maybe this is the only way politically to do this, a new kind of two-state where Arabs, I'm talking about mass amounts of the biblical heartland, are under Arab control right now. If we go through the full ideology, what if they all converted to be like this sheik and said, hey, we're not going to attack Israel, but Judea and Samaria is an Arab country now. You have 1.5 million or so Arabs, not Jews. Is that really what Judea and Samaria is supposed to be? Another Arab country where Arab masses are
Josh,
coming here?
Is
this not?
I think we should bring this personal for a second, because you and I are Christian Zionists.
Yeah, no, and I've been thinking about this back in my mind too.
And we live in the heartland of Israel, and I say live because we've been here for 20 years almost, or you've been here 20 years. I'm almost 20 years, and obviously, you know, not all Christians from America can come and just live here or whatever. But what is the place? And somebody asked me a long time ago, is there a place for the Arabs in Judea and Samaria? Is there ever a place for them to live in Israel? And my response then was, only if they embrace the covenant that God gave to Abraham. Like Mike Huckabee was saying, only if they're willing to embrace the Jewish people's sovereignty in the land of Israel. I would even go a step further. Only if they're willing to go up and worship the God of Abraham at the house of prayer for all nations in Jerusalem. Meaning there cannot be two agendas here. And honestly, that's why we're here as well, because we don't have our own agenda for being in the heartland of Israel. Our only agenda is to see the Jewish people settling and living and thriving in the heartland of Israel 100%. And we would give up any kind of rights, any kind of house, any kind of project, any kind of farming, agriculture, anything that we're doing, if it meant that another Jewish family could build a home and settle and be sovereign in more of the land of Israel.
I want to add one more, because I think this really hits it on the spot. They have to say, this is not my land.
100%.
That's like the biggest thing. And until Sheikh Jabre or one of these sheiks says, I recognize before the world that this is not my land. If an Arab ever says that, oh my goodness, now we're on to something. But I don't think that any Arab will ever say that. They're generationally.
I'm just telling you what they've said.
Yeah.
They have said, we want to join the Abraham Accords. What is the Abraham Accord? It is a recognition of the independence and the autonomy and the legitimacy of the Jewish state of Israel in Judea, in the land. That's what the Abraham Accords is. And by them saying we want to join the Abraham Accords, that is implicitly what they're saying, which is why they're being attacked.
I think it
is what Qatar?
Isn't Qatar on the Abraham Accords?
No,
they're not on.
yet.
That's
no.
That's a big
yeah,
thing.
of course not. That's the whole point.
Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia is thinking of joining the Abraham Accords.
That's the big one.
That's the big. That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
The problem is that Israel, when its current leadership believes in the silliest of ways that the way to bring in Saudi Arabia is to talk about the two-state solution. When Saudi Arabia is like, oh, they're back into the jihad again. They're back into the appeasement again. They're back into they hear weakness, and they don't want to be in it if we're talking about that. Even if they're demanding it, they want to hear from us no, and then they're going to join. Even though they're demanding it themselves, they want to hear the strength from Israel.
Can I tell you the flaw? The flaw that Netanyahu is making is he thinks that everyone will want to join us if we're really, really, really aligned with America. Like Netanyahu was so proud that America and Israel went to war together against Iran. That had never happened before. It's America and Israel together. And as long as we have that alliance, everyone will want to join the Abraham Accords. If Israel was independently strong, that's what would strengthen the Abraham Accords. And as long as we rely on, I mean, how many times did Isaiah say it? Just like, don't rely on Egypt. Don't rely on this nation. Don't rely on that nation. We keep on falling into the same trap. And we think we're going to bring Saudi Arabia in by saying, hey, look at me. I'm with America. America's with me. We're together. And it's like, that's exactly the way to have the Abraham Accords fall apart.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Jeremy.
It has nothing to do with Abraham.
Which is very likely.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's very likely that the Abraham Accords could fall apart. That's what we're witnessing right now.
Yeah, it's a possibility. We're on the verge right there of that happening. I was thinking you and I have been partners for 20 plus years, right? We all the time when we make content, we're bickering, we're fighting, we're disagreeing. People like that. Why? Because it shows a real friendship and a trust in the friend. So Trump, after the whole Iran thing, said, Israel and Iran, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what the F they're doing. And he said, Israel, you turn around and go back. People said, oh, he was just saying that to make a feigned impartiality, to make a little bit of distance between America and Israel. Why can he do that and Israel can't? Why can't Israel say, sorry, Trump, we're glad you joined for your own interest. We're going to go and finish this war off. And behind the scenes, they're still good with each other. But we need to be able to look America directly in the eye and not like that. And that's the big shift that needs to happen and will happen.
Yeah. Any
I'm good
other
with
final
that.
comments?
I
about
just
that?
think to wrap up the discussion, I think
Maybe
is
we should ask
totally
the
different.
audience. Yeah.
The audience is obviously going to chime in on this one for sure. But I think just wrap it up. Of course, it's Israel's decision in the end what they do with the people of Israel. Myself, as a non-Jew serving in Israel, I feel an obligation and a deep and my biblical understanding is that no, I don't have land in Israel. I don't have like this is not my land. It's not for the nation.
Basically, we have to be the Geratosh. We're willing to be the stranger in the gates.
And there's a people group that have attacked Israel in recent times more than any other, and it's called the Arab people. That's the current enemy of Israel on the ground.
The jihad.
The jihadist Arab.
It's important to make that distinction.
Which is majority. Also important.
Well, let's just say it's difficult. It's more difficult to find the non-jihadists than it
I
is
just
to
saw
find
a
the
thing where it
jihadists.
was more than 75% of the Gazans, which are represented all throughout Judea and Samaria, including Hebron is a real mass center where Sheikh Jabra is really, that's the reason why he's being attacked so much. That's a Hamas center, mass support there. Just like I would assume similar numbers to what we see in Gaza, 75+% supporting the October 7th attacks. So yes, it's really great to see somebody like Sheikh Jabra standing up, saying no. And my father's literally met the man, went to his house and talked to him. It's appreciated. I don't know that the long term, if it doesn't give way to another kind of two-state idea where a people group that's not Israel is having some sort of autonomy
Or
within
like an
Israel,
Emirates
because
type of thing.
Yeah, and to me, that's a failure. Israel has to, and I think we agree on that. Israel has to be sovereign in its entire land. There's no other people ruling, even the trash service. It's all Israel. The entire country runs like any other country would. You don't have, you go into an Arab village, it looks like third world country. It's because Israel's not managing that place. It's this entity that runs on its own. It's very backwards. It's third world. Israel's got to take control of the whole entire thing. That's, and I think we agree on
100%.
that.
So y'all can, chime in on the comments there, what you think for sure. This is an ongoing discussion and a developing story for sure. Josh, we're running out of time, but hold up that bulldozer over there because, it's always good to end on some good news.
Thank God.
Positive news.
More bulldozers in Gaza, Luke.
I think if I'm correct, Biden held up a shipment of bulldozers and Trump was sworn in. That was released. And now dozens of bulldozers have just been dropped off at the port of Haifa in Israel to join the fight in Gaza.
Not just bulldozers, Luke. D9s. To me, if you were to give the Josh Waller opinion on what is the best solution for peace in Gaza, it literally is the D9.
Well, I saw a video of a D9 towing a D9 out of Gaza, meaning like they get destroyed. And we interviewed one of the first soldiers into Gaza in a D9 commander a few months ago. Like these guys are at the forefront of the fight.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Avraham Azulai, who was just murdered, was driving a bulldozer. So it's it's a small, tiny consolation.
Yeah.
From above.
Well, and also like some of these guys, and it could have been him even, like they're driving like really old, broken down equipment. And so to get the new ones, which are like state of the art, from what I understand, very well protected, is a really big deal for sure.
Just on that note, every praying person out there should be praying for the IDF and the drivers of these. This is literally one of the most dangerous jobs in the IDF. I know personally many drivers and know their stories. It's incredibly dangerous. We need to be praying for their safety as they drive and bring peace to Gaza through strength. That's what this represents.
Yeah, 100%. Gentlemen, it's time to wrap up. Do we get enough? Jeremy, you always bring a little bit of Torah for us, like the weekly Torah portion. You got anything this week to pull into this whole discussion? I feel like this whole show is about Bible. And because like current events, we're always like, do we talk about current events or we talk about prophecy in Israel and the Bible? But it's like,
and then you realize
is there any separation between them?
Exactly. I guess the one lesson that I have from this week's Torah portion is that the king of Moab sends out Balaam to go and curse the people of Israel. And 3 times he tries, and all 3 times comes out a blessing. And what does that mean? Meaning he went to the core. He went to the root. He says, this is a spiritual battle. This isn't about politics. This isn't about just territory. Let's try to curse them spiritually. And what he discovered was you can't curse what is definitionally blessed. And if you try to curse, the people of Israel are blessed. So the question is, what is like all the volatility, Gaza, Iran, what's going to happen, Qatar? Israel is blessed and Israel is going to win. And it may be a long road to victory, but there's no question that God's blessing is upon this land. God's blessing is upon his people, and that we are going to win with all the curses that are thrown at us. It's just a matter of time until they turn out into blessings upon us.
Any connection to Witkoff?
I was holding myself back.
Yeah.
I was
In
holding
Hebrew-
myself
in Hebrew,
back.
No, not really.
It's actually called Vayitkof, and they will attack. That's
Oh, wow.
literally what his name
That's
is.
how you spell it in Hebrew?
Really?
Yeah.
Vayitkof.
How about we not draw any conclusions and
make
we'll
any
let
more
the audience chime in on that one. No conclusions
Okay.
drawn. Just
Tried to curse
Just-
3 times.
we could pull
and
a
then what
can-
happened?
we could pull Candace Owens. We're just asking questions, guys. Just asking questions here. So. All right, guys. So, well, if you want more Torah from Jeremy, from Ari, go to thelandofisrael.com. They have a weekly fellowship you can join from believers from all over the world. Definitely encourage you to check that out. We'll put the link down below as well. And let us know, guys. Chime in the comment section. Ari reads every single one. We know that, and he loves to hear from you guys. So, and we read them too. Maybe not all of them, but I do read the comments for sure. We'd love to hear from you guys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're listening, if you're watching, wherever you are. Make sure you subscribe and follow along. As always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what's happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back very soon here at the Israel Guide.